من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله أستغفر الله. Jazakallah khairah for everyone for turning up again, once again. Jazakallah for your attendance. Inshallah, we'll cover two topics again today, chapter 26 and 27 of our 47 diseases of the heart. 26 is flattery. The Arabic word is tamalluk, ta, mim, la, qaf, tamalluk, flattery. And then 27 is reliance on people, i'timad ala al-khalq. Rather than relying on Allah Ta'ala, i'timad khalq. So we'll cover these two chapters today, inshallah. So as usual, definition, verse of the Quran Kareem, hadith about a possible story on that topic, and mainly the causes and cures for that. So flattery, chapter 26, definition of flattery. Definition of flattery. Flattery means to act humble, degrade or demean yourself in front of someone with a higher status or higher influence than yourself, solely in return for a personal benefit. So degrading yourself, humbling yourself, demeaning yourself in front of powerful people to get something from them. Okay. Blessed verse, Allah Almighty declares in the glorious Quran, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. And when it is said to them, make not mischief on the earth, they say, we are but mere reformers. So when they are told, when the troublemakers are told, La tufsidu, don't cause trouble, they reply, we're not troublemakers, we are good doers, we're peacemakers. So the ayat says, La tufsidu, don't cause trouble. They reply, we're muslihun, we are peacemakers. This verse, these days on social media, it's being quoted a lot as well with current global situations. They are told, look at the ayat, they are told, don't cause trouble in the earth. And they respond, we're not causing trouble, we're peacemakers. This ayat karima in the current political situation, the genocide in Palestine, it's been quoted a lot. So the ayat karima was specifically, in fact, let's read the tafsir that is here. Let's go straight to the tafsir. In interacting with infidels, behaving leniently in religious matters for their convenience, flattering and humbling yourself for misguided individuals, uniting with followers of all sects, and avoiding expressing the truth in order to please misguided individuals are all traits of hypocrites, and they are forbidden, they are haram. This is what is meant by the turmoil caused by hypocrites. So this ayat karima was talking about hypocrites who pretend to be peacemakers, but they're actually troublemakers. Many people nowadays have this habit, they adapt their behaviors according to whatever congregation they are visiting, which is prohibited in Islam. Incompatibility between your external and your internal personalities is a major character flaw. Okay. So being a people pleaser, basically, flattery in simple words, common everyday language, being a people pleaser, that can destroy your deen. In Urdu, har dil aziz, vanna har dil aziz, wanting everyone to respect you, wanting to be respected. Obviously, when you speak the truth, you're going to have people who don't like you, no matter how politely you say it, no matter how softly and leniently you say it. There will be people who have a problem because their progress depends on people remaining ignorant and blind. So whenever you try to make people see or wake people up, it's going to a lot of people are making a lot of money and are in very comfortable, cushy situations, and for them to stay in those situations, they need the majority to keep their eyes shut and their ears and their mouths shut. So waking them up is just naturally goes against their benefits. In blessed hadith, flattery drives away shame and faith. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu narrated this blessed remark of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So even our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has spoken on the topic of flattery. In Urdu, the word is khushamad, the Arabic word is tamalluk. If an individual humbles himself, so we usually think of humility as being a good thing, but if an individual humbles himself for a rich man and degrades himself in order to acquire his respect or wealth, then 2/3 of his shame and 1/2 of his faith will depart from him. One half of the shame. So uski haya ke do hisse. 2/3 of his haya, of his ghairat, 2/3 of his ghairat, and half of his deen, he loses them. So this is what our Prophet ﷺ said about, don't degrade yourself, have self-respect. Don't degrade yourself in front of rich people. Don't humble yourself. Humility in front of a peer or in front of parents, or humility, ajzi, bowing ourselves in front of a ustad or a wali for the sake of deen, that's really humility for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But humility in front of a rich man, well, that's because you don't want to upset him, and then you don't want to lose out on incentives. And so that's not humility and humbleness for the sake of Allah ta'ala. That's really you humbling yourself in front of money. Humbling yourself in front of rich people is humbling. Yeah. So we're not saying be rude to them either, but just don't humble yourself. Caution about flattery. Flattery and excessive praise are despicable, fatal, and undignified acts. There are times when flattery and excessive praise cause many other harmful sins like lying, backbiting, tale-telling, negative assumptions, etc., which are all forbidden, haram, and they lead to hell. So chapalusi, flattery leads to backbiting and haram things as well. However, if flattery is required in pursuit of religious knowledge, then as a student you may flatter your teacher and fellow student Islamic brothers in order to profit intellectually from them. Such flattery is not prohibited in Islam. The beloved Prophet ﷺ stated, flattery is not a characteristic of a Muslim except in the pursuit of knowledge. So this is hadith about Prophet ﷺ. खुशामद करना मुसलमान के अखलाक में से नहीं है, मगर इल्म हासिल करने के लिए खुशामद कर सकता है. In front of a wali, in front of a peer sahab, वाकई someone who's a scholar. ठीक है, there's a lot of दो नंबरी scholars and teachers out there these days. So when it comes to religion, you have to be careful who you're flattering yourself in front of.
What would be a good example of
Khushamad, exaggerated praise, even najaiz praise. We see this a lot sadly in masjids.
We're talking vocally or physically,
it's usually vocal. Hazrat in जैसा शरीफ बंदा मैंने कोई देखा ही नहीं. ओए होए हजरत के तो अखलाक यार, मैंने तो कभी इनसे तो कोई, मैं इनसे ज़्यादा शरीफ बंदा कोई समझता नहीं. पूरी ज़िंदगी इनके साथ रहा हूँ तो मैंने इनके मुंह से कभी कोई गलत बात सुनी नहीं. And that's a load of, when Hazrat is backbiting every other sentence. Just like giving too much praise to someone. Lip service. Jai's part would just mean, even in front of a scholar, you can't lie and praise him. You can't say something that you don't feel. Bas yehi hai ki extra adab karna, extra, just being rushing around to get him a chair, to try to get him a cup of tea if he needs something. Uski khidmat karna, khidmat like a servant. In front of an alim or with a peer sahab, that comes in. Yeah, you're right. Through your body language, flattery would be just rushing around. Hazrat, aapko kursi chahiye? Kursi aap meri le le. Things like that. Doing that for an alim or a wali would be, or your parents, would be fine. But for a rich man, running about like him like a nokar, when he's got, just because he's rich, calling him Hazrat, 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 despite the fact that there's no clear religious reason to do that, it's just he's loaded. So that's
Is it okay to do that for a guest?
Either guest, yeah, that's akhlaq, that's a sunnat, isn't it? To entertain your guest and be polite with them. So wo to theek hai, because he's a guest.
So it just comes down to your intentions.
No, definitely, yeah. We can't say, it's not my job. If I see someone respecting someone else, really flattering, unless you repeated experience or repeated, unless there's, again, badgumani, we can't do badgumani again. We've got to sort of do, like even yesterday, just as everyone left the class as well, I said something important. I said, please remind me. Obviously, every lesson, we don't cover, whatever lesson we're covering, we don't cover it 100%. There's a lot more to research to do. But yesterday, when half of the class left, I did say, yesterday we were talking about the things, three things that are hard in your heart are excessive eating, excessive laughing. What was the third thing we mentioned? Talking, laughing, eating, And then did say, if I see someone talking a lot or eating a lot or laughing a lot, it's not my job to say his heart must be hard. Whether or not his heart is hard, and that's for him to figure out. That's between him and Allah Ta'ala. That could be badgumani on my part. So I've got to sort my own heart out. I can only tell whether my heart's feeling tough. And thing like Ajud was saying yesterday, if you're working out a lot, then you're going to need to eat more. But then again, the control, only you know if that eating more is it testosterone, like if that's leading to lust and gande khayalat, only you know. It's not for me to ask, it's not for you to tell me. So,
You touched on yesterday, you said to remind you about
remaining hungry part, as in, yeah, don't sort of go hungry to the extent where you become so physically weak where you can't even carry out your first duties or your job.
Yeah.
And where you're doing, if you work for someone, for your employer, obviously, do your job at a decent level where at least meet the minimum expectations. If you're so weak or you become lazy and you're not then working properly, then you're violating the rights of your employer. And becoming very weak will also stop you from doing ibadat as well. So we've got to avoid feeding on nafs, turning the nafs into a beast, and obviously not eating enough where we're becoming too weak. Both of them will obstruct our ibadat. So trying to hit that balance is very important. There's a story here about Sayyidi Allah Hazrat, a very famous one about one of the Naats that someone came to him and Nawabs were like in Allah Hazrat's time in India. Nawabs were like lords and mayors, weren't they? So poets poets do a lot of flattery, don't they? Especially in front of mayors, Nawabs. There's loads of different dukes and stuff. So there was like a Nawab in Allah Hazrat's time, and someone said Hazrat write some poetry in his shan, and Allah Hazrat he wrote something. Why would I only write praise for Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I don't. But it's his wordings were brilliant. So that you can read on your own, that story. Let's go into the causes and cures for flattery on page 184. 184. The causes for flattery. When a person becomes addicted to convenience and has absolutely no inclination at all towards enduring hard work, when someone's not used to doing hard work, or he's afraid of hard work, then he might use the ladder of flattery in order to acquire his personal objectives. Okay, so using flattery as a shortcut rather than using your talents, progressing and developing your talents to get degrees, to climb the ladder of success through hard work, with flattery, lip service, bootlicking successful people, so they just get you closer. Sometimes it's used as a shortcut. What's the cure for this? The cure for this is for you to inculcate a habit of doing hard work, okay? A strong work ethic, in order to make hard work the means of your success rather than flattery. Another cause of flattery is a desire for fame. You can cure this by contemplating about the downfalls of coveting fame. Okay. So again, flattery is caused by fame. We've discussed fame in the past. Desire and greed for fame, obsession from fame is really bad and is haram. So that leads to flattery as well. So if you're not bothered about being famous, you're not really going to be tempted to flatter anyone. Some people are natural troublemakers, which means that they are compelled by their inherent personalities to flatter other people. If anyone points out this evil habit to them, they defend themselves by referring to their flattery as public rectification. Public rectification. Okay. There's no numbers here actually. There's 8 cures and 8 causes and cures. Okay. The cure for this is for you to scrutinize your base yourself and ask it, Allah Almighty severely dislikes people who cause social turmoil and disruption. What if my evil and mischievous personality drives me away from the mercy of Allah Almighty? Okay, so that was number 3. Number 4, in order to achieve success, some people feel it necessary to drag down their contemporaries in the eyes of other people. And one of the ways in which they achieve this is by publicizing negative gossip about them, tale-telling. Hence, tale-telling is a major cause of flattery as well. The cure for this is for you to contemplate about the worldly, physical and spiritual afterlife, perils of gossiping, tale-telling. Number 5, some people use flattery to hide their personal character flaws. Okay. and waste their time flattering others instead of rectifying themselves. Yeah, this is number 6 actually. The cure for this is for you to make sincere efforts in order to remove any personal character flaws that you may harbor, whilst avoiding damaging your self-respect. Okay. So some people have, rather than working on their islah, they will just flatter people so that no one criticizes them. If people look at me, they're going to see my flaws. To make them blind to my flaws, flatter them. Flattery blinds people so they won't see my weaknesses. Okay. Number 7, the numbers aren't there, but some people wish to harm other individuals due to animosity and personal grudges. Subsequently, they begin to flatter them in order to trap them in sins such as self-conceit, which consequently prevent them from ever succeeding in life. The cure for this is for you to cleanse your heart from any grudge that you may have towards any other Muslim. Develop the emotion of respecting believers inside your heart and care for them by offering accurate and efficient advice to them. So sometimes because you hate someone, flattery doesn't necessarily mean you want to get close to them. It's because you hate them. Flattery is like a sort of a tool for fooling them, or making them feel that they can trust you, and then they share secrets and you hate them anyway, and you then use their secrets against them. So hating people can be, when someone's flattering you, doesn't necessarily mean he's loving you. If someone's praising you to your face, doesn't necessarily mean he's sincere with you, and he wants your best interests are in his heart. That flattery could be just a deception, or also a decoy or something to make you fool you into thinking that he's sincere. And finally, number 8, sometimes being in the company of influential individuals of high ranks causes this fatal disease. The cure for this is for you to limit your contact with influential people to a necessary degree, whilst refraining from any unnecessary affiliation with them. So, अमीरों के साथ, बड़े लोगों के साथ, ज़रूरतन, keep your relationship and your affiliation with rich people or influential people according to necessity. Because being around them will obviously, there's a chance. It's very hard to avoid flattery whilst being around them. It's possible, but it's very hard. So there were 8 there causes and cures of flattery. Again, you can look even more deeper into this issue, look for more causes, more cures. So flattery, the point to note was that Hadith Mubarakah that said that whoever flatters someone, a rich man, for his dunya, loses 2/3 of his shame and 1/2 of his faith. Half of his faith is gone. Okay, so that was chapter 26. Flattery, tamalluk, khushamad, people pleasing. That's very, very dangerous for your deen. People lose their deen. That can even lead to kufr as well. Because people pleasers don't like upsetting people, don't they? And sometimes the Amir rich people, a lot of times are uneducated in their deen, because they've a lot of times, not necessarily all Amir rich people who are millionaires, usually have, because they devoted all their life towards becoming affluent and becoming rich. So they focus themselves on the dunyavi education. A lot of, usually, typically, not always, the more educated they are in the dunya, the less educated they are in their deen. And a lot of times they will say things that are kufr. A lot of times rich people, not just rich people, poor people, Muslims in general, because of a lack of knowledge in deen, will a lot of the time they say haram sentences or even kufr sentences. And if you've got a habit of people pleasing and just nodding your head in front of them, if they say something kufr and you just kind of smiling because you don't want to upset them, and you're nodding your head to kufr, then consent to kufr is kufr itself. Okay? So liking kufr is kufr itself. So flattery can even lead to kufr as well. So it's a very serious thing. You shouldn't take it lightly. But it's very, very, very common. If I cannot pull up some things from my phone about khushamad karna, we've sort of touched on this before in one of our previous subjects. Especially there's a hadith about scholars going to rich people, and scholars will sometimes have to flattery. If someone's doing something haram, they'll keep their mouth shut because they don't want to lose a job. If they speak and if they do Islah, they're worried they won't get called to nikahs and khatams by that brotherly, keeping their mouth shut. And when a scholar keeps his mouth shut, that's the one job. A scholar's job is to open his mouth. One alim, one Buzurg, when he said to a Jahil, he was talking about, he said to a Jahil, he said that your silence is better than your speech. My speech is better than my silence. For a Jahil person, staying quiet is better than speaking, but for an alim, for someone with knowledge who can rectify people, speaking is better than silence. Okay. So we can go on and on about that subject, and especially current situation as well. Flattery in our society, how it's damaged our religious institutes, is a very saddening state of affairs. So it's not just reading a topic just for the sake of reading. Is very relevant to us on a daily basis. Flattery is affecting us some direct or indirect way, even when we don't realize it. We'll do another chapter, chapter 27 as well, inshallah. Reliance on people, i'timad khalq, i'timad khalq. A definition, verse of the Quran, Hadith Mubarakah, and possible story and causes. 3 pages, inshallah. A definition of reliance on people: to abandon Allah Almighty, the creator of all causes, and rely totally on the causes themselves, or to abandon the creator Azza wa Jal and only depend on his creation. Blessed verse, Allah Almighty has stated in the glorious Quran, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Tawakkal, tawakkal, trust. That's a command there. Tawakkal ala Allah, trust. I'timad karo Allah par. Inna Allah yuhibbul mutawakkilin. Mutawakkilin, people of trust. Tawakkul wale. And when you come to a firm decision regarding any matters, so have trust in Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who have trust in Him. So the word tawakkul is mentioned in 2 different variations twice in that ayat kalima. Fatawakkal Allah, that's a command, trust Allah. And inna Allah yuhibbu, Allah muhabbat karta. Yuhibbu, muhabbat, and mutawakkilin, trust, people who trust Him. We'll go straight to the tafsir. Tawakkul means to trust Allah Almighty and to hand all your affairs over to Him. In short, it is for you to rely solely on Him. Blessed hadith. The one I trust is sufficient. Sayyiduna Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu anhu, a Sahabi, companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he narrated that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared, if anyone trusts Allah Almighty and surrenders himself to Him, then He Azza wa Jal is sufficient for him in all his affairs. And He Azza wa Jal will deliver his livelihood to him from unimaginable sources. However, if anyone trusts this world and completely surrenders himself to it, then Allah Ta'ala will hand him over to the world. If you trust Allah, Allah opens doors for you from the unseen that you didn't even imagine. Okay? If you have tawakkul and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then even if the 7 skies and the 7 earths conspire, make a conspiracy against you to harm you, Allah Ta'ala will open ways out of them. But if you don't trust Allah and you trust the people and your causes and your own intellect, Allah leaves you to the people. He leaves you to the people. Caution about trusting people. To totally forget your creator and solely rely on people or material resources, relying on material resources, is an extremely condemned act that will destroy you. Every single Muslim must abstain from it. So trusting Allah Ta'ala is fard ayn. Trusting Allah Ta'ala is fard ayn. Okay? And okay? Tawakkul fard ayn hai. And not being pleased with the decree of Allah Ta'ala is haram, it's a major sin. And complaining to Allah Ta'ala is kufr. Itiraz ala Allah, and that's kufr. So tawakkul is farz ayn. A story, parable, reward for not relying on people. Sayyidina Yaqub Basri rahmatullah alayhi narrates, I once remained hungry for 10 days in the holy sanctuary of Makkah al-Mukarramah without absolutely any strength at all inside my body due to hunger. I decided to head towards a valley where I hoped to find some food. When I arrived there, I found an old turnip. Yet after raising it from the ground, my heart felt unsettled. It was as though someone was saying, after 10 days of hunger, all you get is an old rotten turnip. Hence I threw it away and returned to the masjid. Before long, I was approached by a non-Arab who seated himself in front of me before he pulled out a bag and remarked, this is for you. I curiously inquired, why are you giving this specifically to me? To which he answered, we were stuck at sea for 15 days. I vowed, nazar, that if Allah Almighty saved us from this sea storm, I would donate this bag to the first masjid caretaker that I saw inside the masjid, which just happens to be you. So please accept it. I opened the bag and it contained some Egyptian dough, some peeled almonds, and some items of confectionery, some other sweets. I only took a small amount and returned the rest. Thereafter, I thought my sustenance was traveling in my direction whilst I was searching for it in that valley. ठीक है. There's a famous saying, your rizq searches for you just like death searches for you. इंसान का रिस्क उसी तरह उसे उसका पीछा करती है जिस तरह उसकी मौत उसको ढूंढती है. And finally, the cause and the remedy for reliance on people. The true cause of reliance on people is not trusting Allah Almighty, obviously. Totally depending on people, having high expectations with them, all along believing only them to be the causes of your success, people, are all signs of not trusting Allah Almighty. The cure for this is for you to rely on your Creator and Master Azza wa Jal whilst focusing on His perfect mercy. Tell yourself this: the humans that I trust are made by that very Creator Azza wa Jal. Abandoning the Creator and relying on His creation is foolish and unwise. Read stories about how pious people trusted Allah Almighty and never forget that other human beings can only be means and channels for attaining success, as actually giving success is only within the power of Allah Almighty, and therefore you must always trust Him. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Jazakallah, we've covered topics 26 and 27, and there's so much more depth that we can go into. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to avoid these two sins, these two maladies of the heart. So we covered flattery, khushamad, chaploosi, people pleasing, bootlicking, excessive humility and false praise. That's all what flattery is. And we also covered reliance on people. And inshallah, our next chapter will be chapter 28, forgetting your creator, nisyane khalik. And chapter 29 will be forgetting death, nisyane maut, inshallah. جزاك الله خيرا لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم أستغفر الله